Imagine a couple standing in a small courthouse in Massachusetts in 2004, hands trembling, hearts racing, waiting for the clerk to announce the words that would change their lives. They are one of the first in the nation to marry. Around them, journalists scribble furiously, cameras flash, and outside, supporters wave rainbow flags. For them, this is not just a ceremony. It is a declaration that their love matters, that their commitment is recognized by law, and that finally, after decades of struggle, their family has a legal foundation. But this moment, monumental as it is, didn't come overnight. It is the product of decades of fights, setbacks, victories, and societal shifts that transformed the landscape of American law and culture. The journey of same-sex marriage in the United States is a story about more than just legal codes. It's a story about people, communities, courage, and the constant tension between societal norms and human rights. It is a journey that began quietly, often painfully, with individuals challenging discriminatory laws, risking jobs, families, and sometimes even their lives to demand recognition of their love. For much of American history, same-sex relationships were criminalized. Sodomy laws existed in many states, casting shadows over personal lives and instilling fear. Families often rejected children for their sexual orientation, and society largely ignored or actively condemned those who deviated from heteronormative expectations. In the mid-20th century, LGBTQ+ communities existed mostly in hidden spaces, bars, and clubs where people could meet without scrutiny. But these underground networks were not just places of refuge, they were crucibles of identity, resilience, and organizing. Then came the Stonewall Riots in 1969, a pivotal moment that many historians regard as the spark of the modern LGBTQ+ rights movement. The violent raid on the Stonewall Inn in New York City ignited protests and catalyzed activism nationwide. From the chaos and courage of that night emerged a movement demanding dignity, rights, and equality. Over the next decades, activists worked tirelessly to bring visibility to the community, lobbying for anti-discrimination laws, fighting for healthcare rights, and challenging the legal system at every turn. Yet, the idea of marriage equality remained a distant goal for many years. Early legal challenges were met with resistance. Courts were reluctant to redefine a centuries-old institution. Some argued that marriage was inherently about heterosexual relationships, that children needed a mother and a father, and that society would crumble if the law recognized same-sex unions. Activists countered, showing that love, commitment, and family are not defined by gender, and that legal recognition would provide stability, security, and protection for millions. In 2004, Massachusetts became the first state to legalize same-sex marriage, following a decision by its Supreme Judicial Court. This landmark ruling sparked celebrations and protests as people across the country grappled with the implications. Suddenly, legal recognition was no longer theoretical. It was tangible. Couples lined up to exchange vows, and for many, this was a dream realized after decades of uncertainty and struggle. But other states quickly pushed back, passing amendments to define marriage strictly as between a man and a woman. The nation was divided, and the conversation about marriage equality became both intensely personal and politically charged. During the 2000s and early 2010s, the battle unfolded in courtrooms and legislatures. Prop 8 in California, for instance, temporarily rescinded marriage rights for same-sex couples, only to be struck down later after years of litigation. Each case carried immense emotional weight because it was not just about legal interpretation, it was about the lives and families affected. Couples who had married, planned for children, or relied on legal protections suddenly faced uncertainty. The stakes were real, and the narratives of individual families humanized what might otherwise seem like abstract legal debates. Then, in 2015, the U.S. Supreme Court issued its landmark decision in Obergefell v. Hodges, effectively legalizing same-sex marriage nationwide. The ruling affirmed that the right to marry is a fundamental liberty guaranteed to all Americans, regardless of gender. Across the country, couples celebrated, tears streaming down faces, friends and family hugging in joyous relief. For the first time, same-sex couples could feel secure in their unions under federal law. But the story doesn't end there. Legal recognition brought protections, yes, but it also revealed new challenges. Marriage equality opened doors to healthcare rights, inheritance, taxation, adoption, and more. Couples could now make medical decisions for their spouses, file joint taxes, and adopt children with legal certainty. Yet, societal acceptance varied dramatically depending on geography, culture, and religion. Even today, many same-sex couples encounter subtle or overt discrimination. Legal victories do not erase prejudice overnight. For instance, in some regions, LGBTQ+ individuals still face challenges when adopting or experience difficulty accessing spousal benefits due to bureaucratic hurdles. Employers may not always honor protections in practice, and some religious institutions continue to contest the implications of marriage equality. The tension between personal liberty and religious freedom remains a recurring theme in contemporary debates. Understanding current protections requires exploring federal and state laws. Federally, same-sex marriages are recognized for all purposes: Social Security benefits, immigration sponsorship, and federal tax benefits. States cannot refuse to recognize same-sex marriages performed elsewhere. However, nuances exist. Certain state-specific rights, like adoption or surrogacy regulations, vary, which means same-sex couples must navigate a patchwork of protections. Legal experts recommend careful attention to estate planning, healthcare directives, and family law agreements to ensure security and clarity. But legal rights are only part of the story. The cultural shift that made marriage equality possible is equally profound. Public opinion changed dramatically over just a few decades. In the 1990s, polls indicated a majority of Americans opposed same-sex marriage. Today, acceptance is far higher, with the majority supporting marriage equality. Media representation, visibility of LGBTQ+ leaders, and personal connections all contributed to this transformation. Stories of love, resilience, and family humanized a community that had often been marginalized. Consider the power of representation. Television shows, movies, and public figures coming out created empathy and understanding. Families, neighbors, and colleagues witnessed everyday lives that mirrored their own, breaking down stereotypes. The narrative shifted from abstract rights to human experiences, showing that love is universal and the desire to build a life together transcends gender. Yet, even as acceptance grows, activism continues. The fight is no longer solely about marriage, it is about comprehensive equality. Discrimination in employment, healthcare, and public accommodations still exists. Transgender and non-binary communities face heightened legal and social challenges. Intersectionality reminds us that race, class, and geography intersect with sexual orientation, shaping the lived experience of each individual. The legal victories for same-sex marriage are foundational, but the work is ongoing. The history of same-sex marriage in the U.S. also teaches us about resilience. Every court case, protest, and legislative effort was not just a legal maneuver, but a statement of dignity. Activists risked harassment, job loss, and social ostracization to demand recognition. Their courage laid the groundwork for the rights many now enjoy. It's a testament to the power of collective action and the enduring human drive for justice. Reflecting on these journeys, one realizes that marriage equality is more than a legal milestone. It's a narrative about hope and transformation. It is about communities coming together, allies stepping forward, and individuals insisting that their love deserves recognition. It reminds us that social change often requires persistence over decades, that setbacks are temporary if the vision is unwavering. Consider the personal stories that emerged after legalization. Couples who had waited years to marry could finally hold ceremonies with families present. Adopted children gained legal recognition of both parents. Elderly couples could secure benefits and protections that had previously been denied. Each story underscores the tangible, human impact of law. Legal rights are not abstract. They affect where people live, how they raise children, and how they experience dignity and respect. The emotional arc of marriage equality also highlights generational shifts. Older LGBTQ+ individuals often carry memories of secrecy, stigma, and fear. Younger generations experience normalized acceptance in ways that previous generations could only dream of. This generational contrast demonstrates both progress and the work that remains, ensuring protections for all, regardless of age, location, or circumstance. Looking forward, the conversation continues around related legal and social issues. Immigration for same-sex spouses, healthcare access, adoption rights, and protections against discrimination remain critical areas of advocacy. Legal recognition of marriage opened doors, but it also revealed gaps that require attention. Policymakers, activists, and communities are engaged in ongoing dialogue to ensure equality is comprehensive and enforceable. Perhaps the most striking lesson from the history of same-sex marriage in the US is that change is possible, even against entrenched opposition. Legal systems, public opinion, and cultural norms can evolve when people persistently advocate for justice. Each step forward is built upon the courage of those who refuse to accept inequality as permanent. Yet, the journey reminds us that vigilance is necessary. Rights can be threatened if societal support erodes or legal interpretations shift. Awareness, advocacy, and education remain crucial tools to safeguard the progress achieved. Understanding the history of same-sex marriage equips citizens to recognize threats, celebrate victories, and continue pushing for equality in all dimensions of life. In conclusion, same-sex marriage in the United States is not merely a legal development. It is a tapestry of human experience, struggle, and triumph. It illustrates the intersection of law, culture, and emotion. From clandestine meetings in the mid-20th century to nationwide celebrations in 2015 and beyond, the story is about love demanding recognition and society learning to embrace it. It is also a story that continues to unfold. Every couple that walks into a courthouse today, every family navigating adoption or healthcare rights, adds a chapter to this living history. Legal protections provide a framework, but the human stories breathe life into the laws. Each celebration, each challenge, each victory reaffirms the principle that love is a fundamental right, deserving of recognition, respect, and security. So when we reflect on same-sex marriage in America, we see a mirror of society itself, a reflection of how justice, persistence, and empathy can transform lives. The journey from invisibility and criminalization to legal recognition and societal acceptance is profound. It reminds us that laws matter, but human courage matters even more. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson. Progress is not only written in statutes and court decisions, but in the hearts and lives of those who insist that equality is not negotiable. The story of same-sex marriage is a testament to the resilience of love, the persistence of advocacy, and the ongoing quest for justice in a society still learning what equality truly means.